This episode is brought to you by InVeedHemp.com. InVeed has been my choice for my CBD needs for almost a year now, and I can't begin to tell you how it has improved my life. They come in 3 formulas: Clarity, Relief, and Relax. I take a Clarity drop in the morning with my coffee to get me focused, then a drop of Relief for my aches and pains and inflammation after a run or a workout. Then I do a drop of the Relax before I go to bed to help me sleep. I've gotten some of the best sleep that I've had in years, and now with my Whoop band, my recovery band, I can prove it. And now they've come out with a new mixture called Immunity, which we all need to stave off COVID-19. The Immunity Boost is a mixture of turmeric, grapefruit extract, elderberry, licorice root, and vitamin C, which we all could use a little bit more, I'm sure. I just got my first shipment in and took my first drop this morning. They come in drops, which is my choice, a tincture, roll-ons for those aches and pains, and then also gummies, which I think a lot of people out there use the gummies. So you can get it however you choose. So go place your order today. Go to InVeedHemp.com and use the code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life. CBD is a great supplement to keep you healthy and safe during these crazy times. So let's get to this week's episode.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, no touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, the Director of Instruction at Carmel Country Club in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Golf Magazine Top 100 Instructor. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy out there, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Hopefully this free time has given you a chance to get caught up on all the outstanding guests that I've had during this pandemic. I've had famous sports writers like Ron Green. I've had a Major League Baseball player, Will Myers, and also teaching legend, Mr. Chuck Cook, just to name a few. Thanks so much for supporting the podcast, and make sure you download this episode and all the previous episodes of the Golf Guru Show and hit that purple subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming shows when they drop. My guest on this episode is Travis Fulton. He is a must-follow on social media, especially on the gram. You can follow him at Travis Fulton Golf. Travis is a very bright and talented instructor that has over 20 years of teaching experience, but you probably remember him for his work with the Golf Channel, where he starred on shows like On the Range and then was the lead instructor and analyst on The Morning Drive for over 4 years. He now teaches at Jacksonville Country Club and has a massive social presence with his 114,000 plus followers on Instagram. After leaving the Golf Channel, he created his popular golf instruction show on YouTube called The Stripe Show that I encourage you to check out. And if that isn't enough, check out the Stripe Show podcast that he's created as well. So both of those are definitely a must listen and a must watch. There's so much great information in this conversation, from his teaching influences to his time at the Golf Channel and all the valuable lessons that he learned about being in front of the camera, which we can all learn from if we're doing videos out there or we're doing presentations. You don't want to miss some of these great ideas and great advice that he has. So we also dig into his process for preparing a segment, whether it's on the Golf Channel or just shooting a video on YouTube or Instagram. There's so much to take away from this awesome conversation. So let's get to my interview with my friend Travis Fulton. Enjoy. Travis Fulton, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Glad we finally connected. We live 5.5 hours away, so this is long overdue.
I agree, man. I can't believe we haven't spent more time together. So I'm really looking forward to this. So thanks again.
Yeah. Well, I tend to kind of live in a hole sometimes. And, with 2 kids now, 5 and 4, it's hard to break away.
So what have you been doing to fill your time during this global pandemic? I know you got 2 small kids. I know you got your online business, which is phenomenal. I'm sure that's taken off and probably gotten larger during this deal. And also, have you developed any new skills?
That's a good question. From a teaching standpoint, here in Northeast Florida, in Ponte Vedra area where I teach, the courses have stayed open. So we have had cases, Duval, St. Johns County, but not the hot spots like we've seen in some of the other places. So the courses have stayed open, social distancing, of course. They've got the special rules in place, and they've allowed me to continue to teach where I teach. So I have a lot of students who, have elected to kind of wait it out, but a lot of students that have wanted to continue. So I'd still been, I'd say, teaching 3.5 days a week. And then my long distance programs, online training classes have really taken off. I guess if there's I think if there's a silver lining for me through this whole thing, it's been spending more time with my family and kids at home. We've certainly been able to do that, but B, it feels like this whole idea of online lessons and taking online training classes and things like that has become a reality in a business, and I've seen a big uptick in that. So I've been real fortunate to have my training programs that I have out there have done really well, and then pick up a number of online students from a lesson standpoint, that are working individually one-on-one. So that's been taking up my time. And I got to tell you, man, with the golf hitting last week, it seems like these last 4 days, a lot of good momentum building. So it feels good to kind of somewhat normal.
Yeah, it was great to see some golf back on TV. Did you get a chance to watch the match?
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I watched it. It's these guys are human, right? There's some rust. You could see it. You could see the short game's not quite as polished. Dustin's wedge on one you just don't ever see a tour player hit a shot like that. My takeaways were, I knew Wolf was long, but to see him bust it past Rory and DJ a couple times was kind of like, okay, this kid's got some serious speed. I think it was a very positive step for Ricky. He's making some big changes with John Tillery. I thought he had to be very happy the way he played, 7 birdies. And and then Rory, number 1 in the world, stepping up last shot to win all the marbles. I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I agree. There was definitely some rust for all of them. I think they had taken some time off, but it was definitely cool to see. And I was like you. I was curious to see what Ricky's swing looked like after some great work with our friend John Tillery. And I thought it looked a little bit different. It was a little bit more upright going back, not quite as laid off in spots, especially with his wedge swing. So that was pretty cool. And I think he was probably the sharpest of the 4 and played the best, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he was very solid. I think it's going to take some time, with the club at the top, probably, especially with the longer swing. But I thought with the shorter wedges, it looked better. Club looked in a better spot. I thought, a couple face-on looks. I think he was a little more into his trail side. So, hey, these guys can make a lot of stuff work. And so it's going to be interesting. It'll be fun to watch Ricky, I think, this year and see how things go, and if he can kind of get some mojo. You could kind of see him probably a little in between at the waste management. He hit some shots that he's probably not used to, but it's never easy when you're making changes, and I think some wholesale changes for him. So I hope it works out.
Yeah, I agree. That is definitely going to be something interesting to watch, and I'm sure somebody as talented as Ricky will figure it out. So let's dig into your backstory a little bit. Tell us how a kid from small town Kellogg, Idaho, gets into golf, and give us a little lineage of your career and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Northwest. Up in northern Idaho, I went to college or high school right outside of Coeur d'Alene, a little town called Kellogg, and went to a school up there called Lewis and Clark State College. And I was Eastern Washington. I was born in Pullman, Washington, which is where Washington State University is. Lived in Spokane when I was young, and then moved into northern Idaho as I got a little bit older, and then most of my time was there. And all my family's still up there, Montana, Idaho, Washington. And I was a decent player. I played in high school, played in college 3 years, NAIA, scratch player, nothing special, but decent. And after I graduated college, I got this business management degree, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna get in the golf business, but I don't really want to run a property. I think I'm really interested in just learning more about the teaching aspect of it and being outside, interacting, and those kinds of things. So I started teaching in a small town called Clarkston, Washington, and right on the Snake River. Beautiful place. I mean, just a gorgeous driving range. And I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, none of us did we?
Well, yeah, where I went to college, it was in Lewiston. So Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington, that's where the Lewis and Clark expedition was. And it was right where the rivers meet. It's where the Snake River meets the Clearwater. So it's this beautiful property that sits way down in this basin. And then basically on the top of the basin is where you have the Palouse, which is where Washington State and University of Idaho are. So it kind of sits down where you can play golf year round. It gets cold, but it doesn't snow. So that's where I went to college. And then when I got done, I went to the driving range that we would practice at. And I worked there actually when I was in college, part time. And so he's like, yeah, give it a go. So I started teaching, and I was like, I like this, but I need to learn. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So I actually just packed it up, called my parents and said, I'm moving to Scottsdale. And I said, I'm going to start teaching down there. And they're like, well, where are you going to teach? And I said, well, I don't know yet. I don't have a job yet, but I'm selling my Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I'm buying a S10 truck, rent a U-Haul, and off I went. My dad drove with me, drove right down the middle of Utah, and got to Scottsdale. I rented this room from this lady who her son just moved out, and I started to work at a driving range called Cracker Jacks. And it's actually right down the street from TPC Scottsdale. And the place was crazy. It was so busy. And I would teach like from 2:00 in the afternoon to like 11 at night. And I was working for a company called Resort Golf, and I started to kind of get in with some teachers that knew what they were doing. And so I just kind of went from there. They expanded Resort Golf across the country. We did some things in New York and Boston, and we had this road show. So I kind of went with some of the main guys, Scott Sackett, Mike LaManna, and I just started, I started learning the real ropes of teaching. And they actually got the license deal to the PGA Tour back in 2001. So they were going to open up the first PGA Tour Academy, and they asked me to come with them. So I came to Florida with them, and I just kind of grew with that group, got in with real teachers, that knew what they were doing, and started learning from them. And, just kind of kept blossoming from there. So I spent a lot of time with the PGA Tour Academies, was the director of instruction for them for 8 years. And, just kind of, I ended up staying here. I always envisioned I was going to move back to the West Coast. But I married a girl from Atlanta 10 years ago. And, this has become home now, 2 kids, and we're like nestled in here at Ponte Vedra Beach.
Yeah, I saw your title was the director of education. So were you in charge of training all the other instructors? And what did that program look like at that time? Yeah.
So we had training programs. We had 8 academies. We had a lot of guys that have really become great teachers and have done some really good things in the industry. When we started, we hired a lot of young teachers, and then we kind of, molded them, and then they grew and ended up running academies and things like that. But, we had 8 tour academies across the country at one point. And it was really, we were humming pretty good there for probably 4 or 5 years. And then things kind of fell apart with the license deal, and then, kind of just faded away. But, TPC Sawgrass was a great spot. That's where I taught for 8 years, World Golf Village, TPC Scottsdale, TPC San Antonio. And it's been cool to see these teachers do well. You probably, like Jorge Parada was with us for many years, very accomplished teacher. And TJ Yaton was with us, and he's done a lot of good things with his career. Matt Henderson out in Vegas. So, it was cool to see these guys, how well they have done. And, Tour Academy was kind of a part of when we were young and what we were doing, kind of cutting our teeth and then being able to propel off of that.
During those times, like moving from Arizona to Florida, and then who were some of your influences? Because I know you've had a lot of mentors that I've had, like Chuck Evans and Todd Sones, Scott Sackett. I want a Craig Shanklin story from you as well. I know you spent some time with him, and he's a legend. So tell me, just talk a little bit about your influences, and then we'll get into your next phase of your career.
Gosh, Scott Sackett, I kind of started with him. He was a top 100 for many years, and very solid teacher. Taught me a lot about, he was kind of, a cut from Jim McLean. He was his right-hand guy for many years. And so he taught me a lot there, taught me a lot about the business side of it, running academies, the business and the whole bit. And then, we had Todd Sones, a part of the academy, PGA Tour Academy for many years, and was certainly influenced by him from a short game standpoint. I took actually his school many times as a student, which was great. And I was kind of, during the whole golfing machine era, I was really hand fed that from Chuck Evans and Lynn Blake. I shared an office with Chuck for many years. So, going through a certification of golfing machine was like, I just had it right there in the palm of my hand. And I learned a lot from Chuck. I learned a lot from Lynn Blake too. I really gelled with him. I liked the way he communicated and delivered it. So I was very fortunate to get, some of that background in me. And then, my time at the Golf Channel, I spent a lot of time with teachers too, and interviewing teachers, and, Martin Hall is someone that I've learned a lot from. Michael Breed certainly has taught me a lot from the teaching side, but also just TV and entertainment side of the business. In the modern game, with a lot of these young teachers, it's, there's so many, right? I mean, Sasha's been influential in his findings. I like, I like the way Jeff Smith communicates, and have certainly learned, from him, and Stack and Tilt was so interesting, and, love it or hate it. There was a lot to learn from those guys too. I thought they did some really good findings and work, and spine angle and those kinds of things. So, the list goes on and on, man. It's crazy to, I actually spent a lot. I actually, have got to know David Ledbetter over the years and picked his brain, certainly learned some things from him. There's so many different styles, and, you learn technique and things that work for them, but you also learn, I think, presentation from each one of them as well, and the way they articulate it. Because as you know, there's a lot of ways to be successful at this, and there's no one way. And it's interesting to see what their points are, but then also the way that they really present it and the way they want you to go through it. I think that's, to me, is some of the more fascinating aspects of, hey, here's the info, but here's how I want you to consume it. And here's how I want to articulate it to you. And I kind of get a lot out of that too.
Yeah, you're basically leading me in the direction that I want to go.
Yeah.
Your next step is obviously your stint at the Golf Channel.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about how that happened. Like was that a goal of yours?
Yeah.
Did it, what was the pathway? And then I have a lot of questions about what you just discussed, which is presentation skills, presence on television, the do's and don'ts. So I think that's always, and I had Martin Hall on the show and we talked a lot about that. So I'm sure you gleaned a lot of advice from him. So take us through that little process of getting onto the Golf Channel, and then we'll talk about your experience.
Before the Golf Channel, I went to work for PGA Tour Live, and we know PGA Tour Live now in the app and the way that it's presented in today's world. But PGA Tour Live started, it wasn't called PGA Tour Live. It was called PGA Tour something. I can't remember, but it was like probably 7-8 years ago, I think, when they first introduced that. Everything was shot out of the World Golf Village. And I knew them. I did some things for them at the time, and I asked them, I said, "Hey, I'm just going to come in and just kind of sit and watch, and maybe you guys could throw it to me, and I'll do like a 2-minute hit and throw it back." All right, let's try it. So I was like, I just want to do it for free. I just want to get into the business, and I did it, and I was like, okay, I like this. This was different. It was interesting, but I really kind of took to it, and it just kind of built. And eventually, they ended up hiring me, and I would do Thursdays over there, and I'd go over work for 2 hours. I'd sit at the desk with Billy Kratzer, John Swantak, and we would call golf. I would sit and just kind of chat what I'm looking at, but then they would throw it to me, and I would do a segment on his swing or chipping style or putting or whatever was relevant at the time.
So this was like you were like a commentator, like
So I would start with a little comment. Yeah, so I would sit and call golf, but then I would do some instructional pieces around a particular player. And so that's where it kind of started for me. And I really took to it, and I liked it. And I spent a lot of time with Billy Kratzer, who's another one that I've learned a great deal from. And the Golf Channel, and Billy was working for the Golf Channel too. They wanted to start a new show, and the show was called On the Range. And they had Billy Harmon as one teacher, but they wanted to have kind of a new teacher that could kind of bring some of the modern stuff, talk technology, talk TrackMan, the things that were starting to come to the surface, right?
Right.
Force plates.
The opposite of Billy.
Yeah. 3D, right? 3D was coming on. So they could, basically the talent down there could recommend one person to come down for an audition. And Billy recommended me. And he goes, "Would you go down?" I was like, "Of course." So I went down. I did an audition. What's funny is this was at the time where Martin was just kind of starting his show. I think it was like, I think it was second or third year, I think, of his show. And so the audition was, I had to do an entire school golf show by myself.
Wow.
So they're like, "Here we go." So I did the entire school golf show. It wasn't for TV. It was just for an audition.
Right.
And I remember I did that, and I couldn't even tell you what I said. It was such a blur.
I was going to say, what was the topics? Do you remember like what the instructional topics were at that time?
Well, we had to do, I could control one of them. So I did an impact, kind of like an impact zone segment, and kind of the meat and potatoes of an impact position and how you should train it in little swings and things like that. But then the other one was, we had to do like a kind of a pitching segment into distance control, and then move that into some putting and things like that. So it was, some heavy lifting, 30-minute show. And so I did it. And I remember I got done, I was exhausted, but I called my wife and I said, "You know what?" I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is, I knew that, Jason, for me, like, I knew I didn't want to be on tour, traveling the tour. Like, I'm not wired that way. That's not, I've done a little bit of that. I've worked with some players, Fred Funk and things like that over the years. But I kind of positioned myself out of that when I was at TPC Sawgrass. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to travel the tour and work for one or two guys. And I have so much respect for those guys that do it, and it's great. And they're very good at what they do. It's just not for me. Like, I wasn't wired for that, and I still not. But I was wired for the TV media side. And when I did it, I was like, this kind of matches my skill set more, and it really gets my blood pumping and me thinking and the whole bit. So I felt alive, and I felt like this is what I need more of. It's like a drug when you do live television. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I got the job. They call me and they're like, "You got it." I'm like, sweet. Now what?
Now you're on the Golf Channel.
They're like, "Well, we're going to start putting you into some shows." So I did On the Range with Billy Harmon for like a year and a half, which was just great. I mean, he's just such a classic, and we'd get there and he would make fun of me for like an hour, and we would do our walkthrough, and then we would go to breakfast, and he would tell me stories, and then we would go and do the show. And it was cool. It was a cool banner. We had a really cool chemistry, I think, back and forth. And so On the Range lasted. And then what they did is they took it off the air and they just built On the Range into basically, all the shows as you see it now. Like they go to the range, they sit on the range, and they just talk about it, right? And like that's what Billy and I did for the show. So when that went away, Morning Drive asked me to come over to there. So I went to Morning Drive, and that's really where I think the real value came for me, is that, Morning Drive is such a hard show to do. A, it's live, and B, it's so fast paced. It's not like, the way you see Morning Drive today is not the way it used to be when I was there. It would move around fast, and there was so much going on. Mm-hmm. Now they kind of sit at the desk and they just talk, and it's kind of back and forth dialogue like you would see on ESPN or something like that. But when I was there, they would, the segments would jump around and they would move around, and you would have to take it, run with it, throw it back to Matt Janella. He takes it, he throws it over to Hack, he throws it to me. And usually, I would be at the desk, then I'd go to the simulator, I'd be at the desk, simulator. Long story short, what was cool about it is I would do the heavy lifting instructional pieces, but I would sit at the desk and talk all things golf, which was really cool for me because I always pushed when I was there. And with my boss is that it's, you have the instructors in the instruction shows, and that's great. But really, you need someone in the news side.
Yes. That
can sit at the desk, not only have an opinion on the instruction side, but also, really speak to all things golf and be conversational and be able to debate and things like that, because, I think they really miss that. And I think it's unfortunate. We really made a lot of ground when I was there at the Golf Channel and sitting at the desk. Michael would do some of that as well. But I felt like that's really where I was kind of making an impact. And it was great, man. I tell you, it's, you learn how to speak quick. Right. And you learn how to listen. You learn how to listen, and you learn how to organize your thoughts when you're doing live television. And it's done wonders for me in my career, obviously, but it's kind of where I've just taken those experiences now. And as when I left the Golf Channel and, those 4 years, and now really putting it into my own business and my own platforms, it's paid off tenfold for sure.
Yeah. It's just nice. Not that you have to be a commentator, but like you said, it's nice to have somebody to talk about golf, but also be up on our side, which is the instruction side. Mm-hmm. I still think that's missing a little bit. They got the tour players, the ex-tour players, which is fine, but I mean, they're not really doing the due diligence behind the scenes, what we're doing, because it's our job to stay up on the information. And it's a shame that you didn't get to do more of that. I want to dig into a little bit of just the training of it. I mean, I'm curious about, because you're so good on television, you're really good, in front of the camera. And I know that doesn't come without a price and without a lot of practice. Like, are there any techniques that you learned, or any advice that you got, or any training that you had that sort of led you to that? Because I mean, I know it's a process, but I think it's a very important part of our job. But also when you're on the big stage like that, I'm sure you're trying to do the best you can, and you're fantastic at it.
I appreciate that. I think there's a lot that goes into that. I think first and foremost, I think like you have to, my training was a lot of reps. B, I did train with Craig Can, some, and I invested in him as a coach years ago. And he actually came up and we did a couple segments together. It was good. I mean, Craig's a very good speaker. He's very good in front of the camera. He's got a lot of experience, and his training was very good for me. It really was eye-opening coming from an expert like him and saying, look, here's what you do well and here's what you don't do well. And it was cool. It was cool to be a student in something like that, you don't really have much experience in, right? So it was almost like learning how to play golf as a beginner, and being able to take critique and then be able to improve upon those things. So he was helpful. I think for me, a couple things that I always try to do when I'm in front of the camera is be articulate, is not try to say too much. Have my A and B points, but then know that I can stretch it to kind of, C and D, right? Mm-hmm. But I've got to be articulate, and I've got to be able to get A and B across. I think sometimes when you go into segments, you get too spread out, and you want to say too much, and then you really don't articulate anything, and there's no takeaway and point at all. And I think that's just human nature. I think we want to be so thorough, and we want to spread the wings so far that it's like, I've got to say all this. And the reality is you don't, you just need to kind of, what's your point, A and B, and stay close to that. Now, if you feel comfortable coming off of that, then you can spread your wings a little bit more, but you got to make sure that you're very articulate with A and B. And I think that's first and foremost. I think the second thing is then you just have to let it go and show your personality and really push it out there and sell it. Don't come in like tiptoeing, and then work into it. Come into it with here it is. Here I am. Right. Here's what I want to say, and then get out. And I think that's important too. It's easy to get caught up in the moment when the lights are on, especially live television. Yeah,
red light comes on. You're like, here we go.
Yeah, but I think it's a mindset of, you know what, I can't wait for the light to come on, and when that light comes on, here's what I got to say, and I'm going to hit them right between the eyes, and I'm going to pound A and B in there, and I'm not going to tiptoe into it. I'm going to let them have it. So I think as a presenter, that's the key. As an interviewer, it's different because you're trying to set them up for success, and you want to know where A and B is. And what I would tell people when they would come in, like other teachers, and I would interview them, I would be, look, what's A and B? But I'm going to pull you back to that. Like, I'm going to keep you on course. So if you get off tangent, I'm going to bring you back. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my job as an interviewer. But it's high energy, it's articulate, what's your A and B, and go for it. That's the key, I think, in live television. And I think you can take that into when you're doing minute instructionals, 2-minute instructionals, really hammer that home and then go from there. Because the reality is, Jason, as you know, as much as we like to just, throw out these, as much as we know, about the topic, the reality is that's a 15 handicap sitting there with the 5-year-old. The dog just shit on the floor.
Know your audience, right?
Yeah. Know your audience.
It's a huge point.
And that leads me right into my third point, really, is that's where I was going with this, is people, when teachers ask me for advice about doing work in front of the camera, I lead them into, well, who's your audience? And at the Golf Channel, and even on my platforms, the audience is the amateur golfer. So you got to speak to them in a way that is going to entertain them. You're going to educate them on a couple things, and they're going to walk out of that going, okay, I get it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's a real talent. And I know, I've talked a ton about it on my podcast, coming up through the ranks and being a better presenter. Mm-hmm. I used to my process was literally writing the speech down on paper. Like, like now we type it in our phones, and I've sort of progressed, because I've done enough of them now where it's like I just almost like bullet points, and then you want to hit these, like you said, hit these certain topics, and then you just go for it. But, everybody looks at you on camera. Like I look at you, and like people look at me doing videos like, oh man, how did you do that one take? I'm like, it was thousands and thousands and thousands of reps in front of the mirror or practicing, voice inflection, all that stuff. I mean, I'm curious that like, what was your process like? Did you have to rehearse it before, or do you just kind of go right off the top of your head, or do you write it down?
Really, it's just what you said. I'm a bullet point person. I don't write it down. I don't write it out. I try to, when I was there, and even just segments now, like if whatever the topic was, I would take the topic. I would just kind of do a brain dump on the topic, my research. So I'd have a page of, okay, here's my page. And then I would look at that, and then I would take that and then make my outline. Okay, here's bullet point A, here's bullet point B, bullet point C. So I would condense it down into A, B, and C, or A and B. Never more than C. It was never more than 3. And one of the things that I would practice is once I did the outline, I would then say, okay, here's A. Here's point A. I'm going to establish point A, and then I might run with it a little bit, but at some point I'm going to bring them back to point A.
Call back.
I think that's the storytelling of it, is like, hey, pow, here's A. Okay, I'm listening. And then you kind of run with it in voice inflection, and you're using your hands, and you're demonstrating, and you're getting someone else to do it, and you're making a joke about it. And like, you like what I'm saying is like, you be conversational about it if someone's there, or interact with them with your voice inflection and your words, and getting them to kind of hold on to, like you're trying to almost get them to answer finish the sentence. But then at some point you got to bring them back to A, so it's like, boom, let's have some fun. And then we're back.
Love that. Yeah.
And then it's okay. Well, now let's turn the page to B, and let's have some fun. And then let's bring them back. Right. And and I think as you get into that, you start to loosen up a little bit, because you know what you're talking about, right? Like, you know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, then you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, you're the expert.
Yeah, so just have your point, and then let yourself go. Let your personality come out, and give it high energy, and let them. I always feel like just feed them out of the palm of your hand a little bit more, and then shut your hand. I'm just kidding. Then you give them a little bit more, and it's like. So they're always, wanting what's coming next, and then you wrap them up, and then you go off to the next one. So I don't know. It's watching people. I'm a big observer. Like,
me too. Yeah.
I'm not one that's going to sit there and talk your ear off, and I'm going to watch and listen, and then I make a lot of mental notes. I'll make a couple notes, but I'll put it in the memory bank, and then I'll call that back up if it's something that's I like. So you start stealing presentation styles, just like you would steal it. Yeah, just like you would steal information from. I kind of like how you taught that club face angle. I've never thought of that. I've never thought of that drill before. I'm taking it. So
Martin's the greatest, isn't he? Like, I'm sure I had to help watching him do so many shows, and that was one of the questions I had for him. Like, how do you keep coming up with topics? Right? I mean, he's done hundreds of shows. I'm like, golly, it's amazing. And then Michael Breed, obviously, great in front of the camera. So I'm sure you fed off of those guys and had to help just by observing those pros.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was there, during Michael's time, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn. Michael's. He's great. He's high energy, and you take a lot from that. But it's interesting. Like, you learn. Like, I learned a lot from Michael, and a lot from Martin. I learned a lot from just the guys on Morning Drive and their styles, and Gary Williams as the host, and I worked a lot with Kelly Tillman. I really just kind of liked her style, and the way that she prepared and presented. And Carol is such a great interviewer, and like, she's great with like intros and outros, and like being able to take a topic and then just hand it off to you in a way that there's absolutely no way that you could fumble it. I mean, just like she was so good. And you just listen to that and you watch it and you're just like, okay, like that's how it's done. Like, like that's
Right.
I gotta get a little more of that in me, of what I just witnessed right there, because that was smooth. So you pay attention.
Yeah. And as you're doing podcasts as well,
Yeah.
you start paying more attention to guys that are doing interviews for a living, on TV and on Sports Center and whatnot. And I've learned a lot from like Dan Patrick and,
oh yeah,
right. It's anybody that's doing an interview, like you're like, okay, you're not so much listening to the information as like their style and how they phrase questions and the pauses and all that is so cool. So yeah, I think we're definitely alike in how we sort of digest information.
Yep.
What about Brandel? How was it working with Brandel?
I never worked with Brandel. We had opposite hours. I was there early in the morning, and then he was more at night in Central, and so we never really crossed paths too much, to be honest. Him and Rich Lerner, I got to know a little and spent a little time with him, and Frank Nobilo, but my crew was more morning drive and the instructional crew, so it was. We were there early. I mean, we got there at 4:30 and out of there by noon, and it was crazy hours, but it was fun. I mean, it's such crazy energy. I mean, it's amazing, when the light hits and that wire in your ear and it's go time. Like, here it comes. It's coming to you in 20 seconds. Don't screw it up.
What's your funniest or most memorable story about any of the shows?
Gosh, there's so many. I mean, it's just to learn how to listen. I mean, like you have to be present with the people around you, but you have to be listening to the producer too, right? And then you're listening to yourself. So it's like there's three things going on in your head. Like, what did I just say? What is he like? What is he saying? And what are they saying in my ear? And then meanwhile, you've got all the camera guys behind you and the manager on set pointing traffic to the cameras. And, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on. I mean, so you just learn how to listen and pay attention to what's happening around you. And one time I was sitting on this, it was me and Damon Hack and I started at the same time. So Damon Hack, me, Matt Janella, and I can't remember, maybe it was Lauren Thompson, but we were sitting there and Damon was talking but someone was talking in my ear too, but they weren't talking to me. I was just listening. And Damon, I thought, was talking to Matt, but he was talking to me. And he asked me a question. And I have no idea what he asked me. None.
Oh,
Zero. And so it goes silent and they're just all looking at me. And I'm like, what? Like, I have no idea what he just said. And so Damon knew, and he blended it over, and I think Lauren Thompson, like, they just, there's so many things that happen. You'd be surprised. There's so many little things that happen that are kind of off the cuff that the talent just smooths over and just makes it right. But it's, man, your face turns red. You feel like your neck's breaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what he just asked me.
Yeah, it can't be as clean as it looks a lot of
times.
No,
I mean, it's like we laugh about it now, but in the moment, it's like it's embarrassing. And when you're hitting shots, I hit so many just crazy, stupid shots. You could hit 20 great shots, and then it's the one that you just whatever that sticks with you. And
yeah, you get one take, right? You're hitting in the simulator, you're doing a tip, and you get no redo. You get no mulligan.
Yeah, we're playing 18. We're playing 18 TPC Sawgrass. It's Robert Daminer and I hit one, and it's interesting in that simulator. Like, you have to aim more right than you think. Like, if you just aim square, it's going to go left. Yeah, so so I'm like, every time I get square, I hit a shot. I'm like, fuck, that's in the water.
It's left. Yeah.
So I hit one. Yeah, so I hit one in the water, and the producer's like, let's hit another one. I'm like, I really don't want to hit another one. So I hit another one. It goes in the water again. And it's just like, back to back. in the water, and you know, it's just you just feel like you're like that tall, and your face is on fire. You know, one time, this is a true story. Lexi Thompson showed up, okay, and she was running a little late, and they're like, I'm interviewing her. And like, so they were doing this thing at the time, like, hey, we're going to have long drive competitions and this and that. So Lexi Thompson shows up. Okay. So I'm waiting for her. She hadn't warmed up at all. Okay. She just got there. They're like, we're coming back to you in 45 seconds. I was like, she just got here. She hadn't hit a ball yet.
Yeah.
They're like, ask her if she's okay to hit a driver. I'm like, hey, Lexi, you okay to hit a driver? She's like, I'm cool.
She's
Okay.
young. She's flexible.
So we come back. Hey, Lexi Thompson, let's hit a drive. Okay, cool. She's just like, right. I mean, Jason, it wasn't like smooth. It was like full red ass, like 285, 290.
Oh my God.
I'm like, if they asked me to hit a shot,
No chance. You're just getting outdriven by a girl.
Well, I was just praying, like, God, please don't make me hit one, and they didn't. Thank God. But that was crazy. We went to break, and I looked at her. I was like, that's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Like, you never even hit a shot yet, and you just stepped up there and ripped one right down the middle, 285. I was like, you're a pro. I'm not. Yeah, it's endless. There's so many things that happened. It's crazy.
I can imagine. So that kind of led into your YouTube show now, right? So I know we were talking, I think maybe right when you started it, the Stripe Show. Right.
Yeah.
So talk about, how did you come up with that idea? And then, I mean, your social media presence obviously had to be definitely spurred on a little bit by the Golf Channel, right? And then you've kind of just taken ran with it, which is awesome. So take us through that process.
Yeah, so when I left the Golf Channel and all that went down, when they purchased Revolution Golf, and it was kind of a weird time with some of the budget money moving from the news side to social media, and they purchased Revolution Golf. So I kind of drew the I don't know, I was kind of the odd man out, but that's kind of how TV works. There's a lot of changes, and so at the time, 18 Birdies, the app, approached me, and they wanted me to do some stuff with them. And so we started the Stripe Show, which was through their platforms, and that went well. They put the brakes on with a lot of their spend. And I just kind of decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. I'm taking it all in house, and I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to have my partners. I'm going to do stuff with PGA Tour, social media, and do a lot of my voiceover work that I do for them. And I'm going to do stuff for Golf Digest, and I'm going to do stuff, where they want me, but I'm going to take it in house, be my own business. And that's when I just started my own platforms. And I decided that Instagram was going to be my hub. And I've put all my content into there. It's gone really well. And then we've built off of that into the Stripe Show podcast. So I kept the name, and that podcast, we're just, we're only, I don't know, 18, 19 into it. We're still pretty young, but that's going well. I'm enjoying that. Still got a lot to learn there. That's kind of A and B really for me. It's like I look at Travis Fulton Golf Instagram as my own TV channel, and I'm programming it out. I'm putting my content out there. People are liking it. They're buying my programs, and we're just going to keep growing it. We're going to keep growing the Stripe Show podcast, which is kind of the second leg of that. And then, we'll just kind of slowly branch off into some of the other platforms. There's so many of them. And, Twitter's out there. I don't spend a ton of time on Twitter. I kind of elect to just stay in my Instagram podcast home, and that's what I feel like I do well, and that's where I kind of stay. Yeah,
I think it's smart that that's the most popular now, obviously. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's taken off, and it's like you said, it's a great hub for what you're doing, which is online lessons and programs. Twitter's a little bit on the way out, because I've been there kind of from the beginning. I've seen the evolution mentioned. Yeah, it's just, I mean, Instagram's just obviously really hot. And with IG Live, I mean, there's so many different things you can do. You got 114,000 followers,
Yeah.
which is pretty incredible. So any tips or tricks on, aside from just being awesome like you are, of gaining followers and just getting that? I mean, young coaches out there are trying to build their brand, and I think as well as I am, it's an important part. Anything you can share with us?
Well, I think you got to invest in it. Number one, like you have to invest time and money into it. I run it like a business. I mean, it's, I have partners, and it's a business, and it's a business that's off the tee for me. Like I have my online, or I have my in-person instructional business, but then my social media is a business, and doing content that's, in conjunction with my sponsors and in partners. So, but I think like as you get into it and you're growing it, you have to invest your time in it. You have to dedicate X amount of time per week and shoot content, right? Like that's the key. It can't be an afterthought. It has to be, this is when I do it. And for me, when I started, it was like a half a day, and I would shoot a half a day, and I would start putting it out there, learning what people like, what people don't like. And then that turned into a full day, and then it turned into a day and a half, and then it turned into renting a studio, and then it turned into getting this partner who wanted to maybe do a little bit of this. So it just kind of ebbs and flows. But for me now, it's a full 2 days a week that I spend dedicated to that side of the business, whether it's shooting content for my own site or shooting content for my partners. I enjoy that. I enjoy the creative side of it as well, and kind of digging in and doing different things. That kind of gets my blood going, makes me use my brain a little bit more in a way that I like. That's just kind of what gets me going, is doing those types of things. So I think you have to shoot content. You got to pay attention to what's working, what isn't. But I think more than anything, you got to know your audience. And I've said this many times. My audience is the amateur player. My audience is not teachers.
Yeah.
Although I have a lot of teachers that follow it and do things.
Sure.
But I'm not speaking to teachers. I'm speaking to the amateur player, that wants, that likes golf, wants to learn a little bit more about it. Normally has kind of a fixed income, right? That there's not a lot of extra spend. Some have more than others, but they're not going to probably come see you face to face and spend a couple $100 for a lesson. But they want to consume your product. They like what you're saying. They like the way you present it. So you have to give them that, right? And you have to speak to them on those segments that we're so-called experts at, right? So that's the way I look at it. But then also I try to package things for them that would be appropriate for them. And that's where the training courses come in, and, $15, $20 for an online class, right? That takes me through short game and teaches them 4 or 5 shots in a very organized way, rather than perhaps just kind of piecemeal. So I think, Jason, like I've always looked at the industry as, what is it? Less than 15% take in-person lessons, right?
Right.
And I think it's like 12, 13% now that are actually probably taking some kind of, private lesson per se. And that's not a lot. So it's like there's 85% of golfers that I think about all the time. And that's those 85%, that's my consumer. And that's who I'm speaking to. So every video you watch on Instagram is really geared towards them to be a part of my ecosystem and be a part of my brand and business in a different way, whether it's just watching my videos on Instagram or taking one of my online classes from that capacity.
Yeah. So it just pushes your potential students towards your website and towards your programs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like guys like you that are already ahead of the curve. This shutdown hasn't hurt as bad. Eric Corgarno, guys like that. You guys are already online doing that. And that's why I've got a new app. I just rolled out in the last 6-8 months that I'm trying to do the same thing. So it's just it's like trying to hit that part of it to where I just call it making money when you're not really working, but it's a lot of time invested away from it, and I get it. That's awesome. That's great advice. I got so many questions. I wanted to get into some technical stuff, but I know you probably.
Yeah, go ahead. We're good. I'm good till 9, so we're good.
Okay, cool. So I appreciate the fact that being sort of in the media at one point, like I said earlier, and you're up on all the new information. You mentioned Golf and Machine, but like what's been some of the certifications or the major influences that have really, I guess, influenced your teaching style now and your information? Because I like your stuff because it's super. It's as a compliment, like it's very vanilla, right? Which is it's a compliment in the fact that you understand all the different types of theories and philosophies, and you can apply it to the average golfer. So anything come to mind on just swing technique or anything that's like had a big influence on you?
I think it's been really cool to see us, I think, kind of go back to more, I don't know if it's old school or, the biomechanics of leg action, right? I think in hindsight, like went through a phase a little too much, not enough lower body participation, in the backswing. And I've really have been moved off of that through a lot of the biomechanics stuff and really feel good about the leg action and the way that we're changing knee flexes and the overall orientation to the ground. And, I think the science and the biomechanics of that has really been good for me, and has been very helpful from that standpoint. I think, I tend to, it's funny. Like I've always looked at myself as, I find myself just listening and watching all the time, and I don't even know if I could put it all down on paper as like, here's exactly the one way that I see it that everybody should do.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the topic. Here's what I want to say on the topic at this point in time as a teacher, And if I said it 5 years ago, there's certain topics that I'm probably saying it a little bit different,
100%.
As far as the way that like the meat and potatoes of the way I'm teaching it and or the way I'm presenting it, because I always look at it as, okay, here's what I'm saying. And then here's how I'm saying it. And sometimes they're both different. Sometimes one of them's different. And sometimes neither of them are different. And so it's like, that's always changing in my mind. And as I watch top teachers, when I was at the Golf Channel, like, Cameron was coming through there and doing his stuff. And I watched all that and took away some things from that. And then I watch like a lot of Gankis's stuff that he's putting out there. I've watched a lot of, when Joseph Mayo was doing a lot of his stuff, and then, Potter's putting on Instagram and watching his stuff, and swash putting, and like, like there's so much coming in.
Right.
And I'm like, it's like in there. And then I'm like formulating the way that I'm seeing it and believe it in the way that I'm going to present it, and that's just always changing. So it's like all these people that I just mentioned have had an influence on me, and it's like, it's a sponge that just keeps like just getting more soaked.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and then it's like, hey, you got to say something, then you push it and like all this comes out. Right.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's and that kind of leads me into the the science of it all, right? Because I mean, how much are you keeping up with the science research? And I mean, the question that I always get when I'm on the other side of the microphone is it helping our instruction, or is it hurting? Is it too early? What's going on? I mean, we've got the alpha wars going on, right? I've had both sides of that camp on my podcast, and now it seems to be ramping up. I don't know if you've kept up with that lately. What's your take on
what's I haven't been out there on that Brian versus
basically
Sasha.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, there's several on each side of the alpha war. Didn't know how much you take away from that, because I mean I've learned a ton from Sasha. I've learned a ton from Dr. Kwan, and then a ton from Michael Jacobs and Brian. So I mean it's like all of that stuff. I think we have to. This is always my answer, is like we have to sort of develop some kind of language that we can convey to the average golfer that we're teaching on the daily basis, right? I mean, I think it's important to have the knowledge of what's happening with the club and the forces and torques, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it. Like, how much do you keep up with that stuff, and how much is it?
A little bit. I find myself, when it comes to that level of education, I find myself going all in for 5 days, and then I'll go away for 3 months kind of thing. So it's like it really, like, that's how I do it. And sometimes, just to be frank, like, I'm a little late to the game sometimes. I don't know why. Like, it's just kind of my personality. Like, I see it, I'm reading it, like, I'm touching it, I'm feeling it, and then it takes me a while, and then I jump in, and then it's like, and then once I jump in, I'm in for 3 days, and then I got to get away. Like, I just have to completely give away. I think, to answer your question, I mean, I think it's having an impact. I think we're definitely more educated as an industry today, for sure.
No doubt.
There's no question. I mean, I know I'm a better teacher today on what I'm saying than I was 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Like, I believe that. I think there's, with that said, I think we have to continue to learn. I think as an industry as a whole, and I'm not saying like individually, but as a whole, I think we're kind of like really not overly invested, but I think we're really heavy that way versus the other way, which is now the presentation side of it.
Coaching, maybe.
And the coaching side of it, the relatable side of it to the consumer, the entertainment side of it to the consumer. I think that's where I really excel, is that side. That's my expertise probably. Sure. And like, I kind of like, I'm in there, I'm mixing around, but I'm not going to get up there and present it like Sasha, I'm not even yourself. I know you're very, you understand that, like, you live in that world, and that's really, like, you can articulate in that language to the teacher in a way that this is the way it is from a scientific standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. And I think, like, as teachers, you have to be in that world to some degree. Like, you have to be living in it. I think as an industry, from a consumer facing standpoint, I'd like to see a shift that way just a little bit more, and really, spend time on the coaching and the presentation and the entertainment side of it, and making it really accessible and fun. And like you said, vanilla is a compliment, because you could muddy it up, and you could really throw in the moment arm out there and the alpha, and people are like, holy shit,
right?
What's going on here? So,
yeah, you're kind of you're like, you're zeroed out on TrackMan. So that's like a,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you could go either way, but it makes you more relatable to a bigger audience. That's kind of what I'm saying. And you're exactly right. Your superpower is on the other side, and that's cool. And I think it's a great place to be. But you're more educated, than most that, so it's hard to be both. I think it's difficult to do all of it.
Yeah. I think my personality,
teaching, we're like, we're busy, and, I don't have time to sit and look at all the Facebook posts that come through all the time. You get backed up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's a balance. It is a balance. And I think you have to, like, I think for me and being in the TV media side of it so much, like I have to be really polished in that area. But I have to bring this over though,
Right. Exactly.
And I have to bring it over in a way that is like, okay, that's not going to bite me kind of thing, from the consumer standpoint. And that's the way I thought about it. Golf Channel, when we would do 3D segments, it's funny. Like it took me a while to convince them to do a TrackMan segment. They're like, well, that's really technical. And I'm like, it's more technical, but there's a way to like present it, like there's a way to present it. So, I think like that's a good example. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we did a segment on like what is the real path, like how to, like when path came out. Right. And like, okay, it's not just
what's the 3D path. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, well, there's actually a couple things that go into path, and like, oh, well, we can't do that. Like that's like, no, really. I mean, it's simple. Like it's easy math. And I remember we set up, and I had Damon Hack and Matt Janela sitting there, and I was like, okay, here's the formula. And I'm like, okay, we're hitting a driver, and we hit down 2 degrees. So which way did that move the path? Like that's the way we did it.
Damon's got no idea.
Well, but I educated him like, okay, every degree we hit down the driver, it's moving the path to the right,
Yeah.
So that's the way we did it. So we made it, in a way that was like, okay, this makes sense, So that's kind of the way I've always looked at it, man. Like I'm never going to be one that is going to be like, probably up till 3 a.m. geeking out on it with, the crew. Right. Like I'm going to be in the seminar. I'm going to ask my questions. I'm going to get what I need, and then I'm going to get out of there and probably go smoke a cigar and like screw off and, that kind of stuff. And then, but I'm going to take that info because it's making me a better teacher. And I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to start packaging it up in a way that I can just push it out and make money on it.
I hear you. It's nice to see, that they've actually, let a guy like Como come on and actually talk about some real up to date, stuff like that. And I know he's taking some blowback on it with the first few episodes. He's like, oh my God, this is, you can't talk about this to the average golfer. But I think we're underestimating our players. They're on the internet just like we are. I mean, they're up on some of the lingo, and I think that's one of the questions that we always get is like, should we be speaking in correct anatomical language? And I say most of the time, yes, depending on the person in front of you. But I mean, it's you just got to know your player and you got to know your student and their level of sort of golf IQ. But I mean, I'm telling you, people out there, they're on YouTube and they're on the Golf Channel and they're watching the same stuff and like they're more educated than they ever have been.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been a process, and I think we're bringing them along. Like I said, I go back to I think we just got to shift the boat that way a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think as we do that, like that'll bode well for that amateur player for sure.
Yeah, I mean the young coaches are so much more are so far ahead of where I was. I know when I was 25, and it's like that's one of the questions I always like to ask is like either what would you tell your 25-year-old self getting into the teaching business, or what advice would you give a young coach that wants to get better? I mean, because it's definitely changed what we've done, whether it's reading books or doing whatever. I mean, what would your advice be? What would a couple of good bullet points?
Well, I would balance it. I think you have to, what I would say to them is go learn, establish some people that you can learn from and watch their videos, go watch them teach if you can, ask them questions, and then go out and teach and find your voice and have that balance. Don't try to be them, learn, but go be yourself, have your own identity. And I think you have to go at it that way, 50-50. You can know everything you need to know, but if you can't get in front of someone and you can't communicate and you can't relate and you can't laugh and you can't have a conversation and you can't, be a human being,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like, then you are not going to be successful in this business. You have to put your guard down a little bit and just like, you have to build relationships, because you can have everything you want to have on this side, but trust me, that 15 handicap at the end of the day, they don't give a shit. Like they just want, they just want to know what I should do. Right. Like, just tell me what I should do and like talk to me and let's have a little conversation and this and that. So I don't know. I think like on this side, it's like, we got to keep learning. And we got to keep moving the needle forward as teachers and bring that information to the front. But I don't think you can lose focus of, I think, the real art of teaching, getting in the trenches with students. And that's what pisses me off about Brandel is like, and some young teachers for that matter, is like, because it is so accessible. Like all of a sudden, the entitlement is there to push forth and shoot bullets through guys that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. And fair, and you got to take it. But at the same time, it's like, look, get yourself a piece of turf, and get your ass out there and start teaching. Because you know what? You can have all you need to know, but that dude's hitting on the hosel all of a sudden, right? Yeah. How are you going to get it off the hosel? You're going to start talking moment arm. You're going to start talking, like, come on, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
your left heel.
yeah, exactly.
What are you going to do? Yeah, you're exactly. I mean, he doesn't have the experience to be judging our industry like that. I agree. I totally agree.
Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a shame. I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and, I just thought that there's ways to be critique and be critical, but when you take it as far as he did, like, and I think I told Jake Thurm this, I was like, someone needs to get that dude a piece of turf, because he's got the answers. And if he's got the answers, then there's a lot of people out there that need to know the answers, and he could do a lot better for the game. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. Yeah. It's like I've taught for 21 years now, and the real art of teaching is getting in there with the student. Like there's no, like, you can know everything you need to know, but when you get in there and you start making changes and you start putting your hands on students and you start moving them, man, sometimes things are they just go smooth, and they better go smooth more times than not.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, sometimes shit hits a fan.
Yeah.
Right?
There's absolutely, because you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with, mobility issues, you're dealing with a lot of things that players can't do you want them to do. So that's a great point. Yeah. It's a shame because he has such a platform to change people and to affect golfers, and he does.
Yeah.
Maybe positively or negatively. And I thought he'd made such strides, because I was very impressed with his Top 100 Summit presentation, because I thought he'd really done his homework, and he started to, like Frank Noblo, I think is great. He's literally he's in there trying to learn, the stuff that we know for the most part, so he can share it on TV. And I give him credit for that. So I hope more commentators would take it a little more serious, because it is a big deal. And it definitely, I think, it affects our industry, and it affects golfers that they get good information, good sound information, as they have that, that microphone in front of their face.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there, but it just shows there's no one right now on TV that I don't think can do the heavy lifting.
No.
From the instructional standpoint. I don't, and I say heavy lifting, just the baseline of what Ricky did, now what he's trying to do. I think Brandel's probably the closest. I think Brandel's really good at what he does. I think he's the best number 2 chair there is. But I lost some respect for his stance and the way that he took and went about that, with that. And I think to go back to teaching young teachers, I think that's an important point. Learn your stuff, but you got to get in the trenches and you got to get some reps, boy. Like,
Yeah, get your hands dirty.
you got to. What I always told them is, you got to pay your bills, right? When you're paying your bills as a teacher, now you're a full-time professional teacher. But when you're not paying your bills, you're not a full-time teacher yet, right? Like,
Well said.
you can turn pro as a golfer, but when you're paying your bills as a pro golfer, like, you're a pro golfer. You know what I'm saying?
You better pay an entry fee, right?
Yeah, right. Like, you may have gotten into the PGA. You may have studied TrackMan. You may have went and spent time with Sasho and Todd Sons. But I got to see you. I got to see you produce. And that was a conversation I had to have with a lot of teachers. Some of them that were on tour, just giving up their time, not getting paid. And it's like I get the experience, but this is a business, and you have to charge for it, and you have to pay your bills, and you have a responsibility to that. And when you can pay your bills and you can start building on top of that, all right, now you're a teacher.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I know we've got to jump off here. We got one last question that everybody has to answer. If you had a gigantic billboard to get a message out to the world, what would your billboard say and why?
I think great info, right order. I think that's kind of what I always put it. It's like, look, you can have great info. There's a lot of great info out there. There really is. I mean, that's what's made our industry better. Like, we have a lot of great info out there now. I think, and we did then too, but it's better now. It's probably going to be better 10 years from now. Who knows, right?
Sure.
And so we have a lot of great info, but at the end of the day, for me, what I'm always thinking about is the order. It goes back to the presentation, A, B, and C, right? And when I'm looking at this player and I'm like, okay, here's the ball flight, here's the miss. All right, here's how we're going to fix it. A and B got to be in the right order. And if we can put it in the right order, then we can start changing the probability of impact. All right. And that's why oftentimes I'll tell people, I'll be like, look, I'm in the business of changing the probability of impact.
It's a great way to put it.
For amateurs, like, a little different for tour pros. Like, we know like their impact's pretty good, and there's little things and smoke and mirrors, and like, you get them to like back into some, all of a sudden they got it and off they go. Right. So but for like this 15 handicap, I'm like, look, my job is to improve the probability of your impact position. Your good shots are going to get better. Your bad shots are going to get better. And so if I can get A, B, and C right, all of a sudden probability of impact starts to improve. Right. And it's like, look at it this way. We're playing poker. I deal you 5 cards. You're getting shit cards. You can bluff it once in a while. But at some point, you got to get some cards, right? Like, at some point, you got to get some cards. And it's like, you're taking that club face back inside and open. All right. You're going to come over it. You're going to path and, you're going to kind of get it to work out once in a while. But now all of a sudden, I got the face more square. It's out in front of you. You're turning better. Now the club wants to shallow some. That's like, now you just got dealt a couple aces, and, so it's like you start layering in the probability of impact with good info in the right order. And it's like, they start buying into that. And that's the way the classes are laid out. And it's like, look, man, I don't have all the answers, but I got a lot of them. And I got enough that I can look at you and say, look, here's what we need to do. Here's A, here's B, and if we do that, C gets better. Probability of impact gets better. If the probability of your impact gets better, you can develop more skill. You're starting to develop more skill. We shift the bell curve the right way. You're getting better. And that's what we're selling them on.
That's right. Awesome, man. Well, I know most of the people listen are the majority are coaches, but there's still a lot of players there. So how can the coaches and the players find you on Instagram, give them your social platforms, and how they can work with you? Yeah,
man. So my Instagram is the main hub. It's at Travis Fulton Golf, at Travis Fulton Golf on Instagram. And then Twitter is at Travis Fulton. But Instagram is the main hub. my website, actually, we've been doing a little bit of work on Travis Fulton Golf. That's going to be relaunched on Monday. So you can kind of go through there as well. And then my email is travis@travisfultongolf.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I wish I could go more, but I got little ones here that I need to attend to.
Not a problem. I understand. We'll maybe part 2 and we'll dig more into the technical stuff.
Yeah.
But until then, man, stay safe, stay healthy.
Okay.
And I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Guru back here again with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to Travis for coming on the show and sharing his story and his incredible knowledge on teaching and coaching, and so much more in that conversation that we can apply to our daily lives and also our teaching and coaching. Make sure you follow Travis on the gram at Travis Fulton Golf and on Twitter at Travis Fulton, and give him a social wave and say thank you. Thanks again to our sponsor, NVDHemp.com, taking care of all your CBD needs. Definitely go check them out. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. Make sure you use the promo code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life. Also, go to the App Store and download the Golf Guru app to see what I'm up to on a daily basis. It's got live lessons, it's got a drill library, a social feed, and also your ability to take online lessons from me if you can't get to me at Carmel. Also, check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. It is getting upgraded, so June 1, rolling out a new website and newsletter, so I'm excited about that. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email me at the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com, or just hit me up on the DM like most of you do. Appreciate that. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show are produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullett. And as I leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn, RIP my man, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.